And, well, Gary O'Brien right alongside me, a 100 plus, what's 115 or something Shannons Nationals rounds. Gaz, you've missed one. That means I've snuck one closer to you. About 3 rounds next year, I'll clock up the 100. A very big welcome to Melbourne, Gaz.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, all. And, well, we've had one race already for the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series. That was yesterday afternoon, the first one for round 4, and what a dramatic affair it was. And as you can see, we've got a gap on the front row.
Yeah, here comes the Mustang now, just making his way down through the field. Yeah, sorry, Gaz, the race yesterday, bit of controversy.
Well, it took 20 minutes for the race to get underway, so it was actually a 40-minute race rather than the 1 hour. Unfortunately, Alsanese fenced his Hyundai on the outlap. And when I say fenced, I mean fenced. It was sitting on top of the fence around about turn 5 on the back straight. And by the time they got that car back to the pits and got the race underway, of course, with the compulsory pit stops that they have, we had this situation where Ian Sherrin looked like he might have had it in the bag, but with 2 tyre change, as opposed to everyone else, he fell back to 3rd spot and just couldn't get it back. So Rick Bates was first across the line, but then excluded. So he's starting this race from position 19 at the back of the field. The win went to Kobe Calvin. And Kobe Cohen, I should say, I'll get that right. It is early, as Nunes did say. He will start from the front row with Ian Sherrin alongside. I'm assuming they're going to have another warm-up lap before we get this one underway. They certainly are, and off they go. So we've got an opportunity to have a look at who else is on the grid.
Certainly, the cars take off there. So a formation lap, and then they get a warm-up lap. The actual 60 minutes for the race time has started. So they come around for this warm-up lap. We're seeing Kyber Kalman stretch the legs of that Mustang. We saw it sitting on the front row of the grid in its first ever race at Sydney Motorsport Park earlier on this year, and it had the BMW of Derek Linton right alongside. This weekend, it's got the M4. So shared front rows with M4s and M3s this year, and the Mustang has been very quick. The guys already labelled it in about January this year. Sandown International Motor Raceway, the home of horsepower, and we've got an i30N spinning coming through turn 1. That's exactly what happened during the warm-up yesterday. There it is, Colby Cowan, the CK Motorsport Ford Mustang GT, right next to the Sherrin Rentals BMW M4, doing a tremendous job. The Sherrins trying to claw back Derek Linton this weekend in points. Chris Lillis will be 3rd on the grid there in the HSV VF Club Sport. Now, these guys in the 2 club sports are having some lower control arm issues this weekend. We'll touch on that during the race. Clay Eckhart, that's a ripping job getting himself onto the 2nd row of the grid in the number 19. Bradley Carr, Dimitri Agathos in the WRX, Darren Foster, Kim Ussel in the Volkswagen, Michael James, Frank Mammarello, I think we go back to 11th with Kyle Girton. Tom Needham in the Prime Motorsport Mazda SP23 there as well. Michael Hopp in the Suzuki. Matty Holt from New South Wales down running this weekend. James Goldsborough, Jake Cammalleri off the back of the grid there as well after issues yesterday. Jake back on the grid. They've certainly had some issues that they've never had before on that car. Again, lower control arm issues. Charlie Sinesi in the rear of the grid in the number 15 car. So it's Charlie at the wheel this time as opposed to Alfie, who was in the i30. And Bob Pearson, I haven't actually seen the Evo Gaz off the tail end of the field.
No, it doesn't appear as though it's there. So,
yes, there it is, the yellow one.
Yeah, unfortunately for Jake Cammalleri, they had a ball joint failure which caused more problems to the car. They fixed it overnight. The Goldsborough entry is actually out now. They had overheating issues. They've decided to park that one. We had a HSV GTS running yesterday, very fast qualifier, but unfortunately had a upright failure or upright bend, I guess is the best word to describe it, on that car for Dwayne West, and only his 2nd run in the car, and what a performance that was to get up P3. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to fix that. They did take it away from the track, hoping they might be able to rectify it. It's a big further of a problem than what they initially thought, so they've parked that one. But certainly, with the number 18 car on the outside of the front row, he'll have to make 2 tyre changes in their compulsory pit stop. They can't do any other work on the car while that stop's happening. and while the rest of the field is on one, and they're off and racing.
We're off now. We've got 56 minutes and 47 seconds for the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series. Race 2 for the weekend, and that Mustang has not got away nicely, and it has got plumes of smoke coming out from what looks underneath the bell housing. Conventional drivetrain, front engine, mid-gearbox in the Mustang there, and they have disappeared back outside the top 10 before the run down to turn 1. So in fact outside the top 5. It's the M4, and then it is Chris Lillis in the AM1 car. So many classes of cars here. Have a look at that, getting a bit of a touch-up with the Golf R that got away beautifully out of, what's that, about position 10? And the Golf R's got away beautifully.
Certainly made up to the round. That'd be Sam Musil in the number 40 car up to P4 at the moment.
Rick Bates up to 10th, started out of the back of the grid in the yellow product car, and we say that because they've got red and blue ones and the sign writing on the side of the car. This is the yellow product car, already up to 10th. Rick Bates in the Bob Pearson entry. We're not sure whether Bob's going to get behind the wheel. He's been knocked about a little bit lately. One of the crew said he was doing a wheelie on his Ducati, came off and broke 11 ribs, and Bob said, no, I fell out of a tree whilst cutting the branch off.
He was gardening, he said.
It's gardening, that's right. Here we go. The Mustang now looking up the inside of the 19 car. Clay Eckhart at the wheel, sharing with David Ayres, two experienced campaigners in this 1 Series BMW. Gets through nicely, so back on the charge. Messed up the start royally in the Mustang, and have found their way. Whereabouts have they found their way? Down to position 5 now. So fighting back, and here comes Rick Bates inside the 10 now, 9th. So he is carving up the field with the four-wheel drive car. We're expecting a little bit of rain later on, and that would be where the Evo would come into its own. But I'll tell you what, on the outlap, when the field's condensed, Rick has made hay while the sun shines.
Well, and fire in the belly as well after being excluded out of yesterday's race. So we're sharing out in front. Chris Lillis actually leads the championship in the outright contest because it's based on class wins as opposed to the number that are in the class. So that's the car that's currently running second. We've got Kobe Cowan in third. Now it says Lindsay Kearns on our timing, but I don't think that's right. Then we've got James in the number 75 Commodore or HSV running in 5th spot. Usul in the Volkswagen in 6th. Then it's Carr, and Carr was actually pinged for 10 seconds for a start line restart breach, and didn't lose position, fortunately, because there was enough gap back to the next competitor to keep him ahead of him. Rick
Bates has just got the Razum Forest VY Commodore in front of them. Those guys had a penalty yesterday also for a restart. So that's that Commodore right there, NZ emblazoned down the side of the number 41 as they come out of the final corner, the Dunlop corner, onto the famous straight here at Sandown, and the Evo draws right alongside at Commodore, and here's the horsepower race. I was talking to Chris Lillis, who's currently sitting second in this race, and he said, geez, the old VY, she's got some straight line. I think they get through the air a bit better than us, or they've spent some time on the dyno getting that thing absolutely up and running. Rick Bates up on the ripple strips. These guys, I don't think, want to be riding ripple strips. With the amount of suspension failures that we saw yesterday, particularly the Commodores, but when you look at the Jake Cammalleri car, the Mazda MP3, it's got all its weight over the front wheels, being the front engine, front gearbox car, and he had a failure as well. And that car, the only failure it's ever had is turbos, a number of them.
And engines.
But over the last 4 or 5 years, it's been super reliable. And as when I spoke to Jake this morning, he said, we changed it as a matter of course, but it's never been a failure that we've had on the car. It's a bit of a worry. Left front, traditionally, just absolutely cops a horrendous pounding here because every corner that's fast is a left-hander.
Well, turn 6, which we're looking at the moment, has a different profile coming into the corner. It's slightly slower now than what it used to be. So is that causing the problem where they come in to 7 and 8 that the cars are getting more up on the curbing?
And they're getting on the curb and leaning further over on that right front. So if there's all of a suddenly an extra 5 kilometres an hour, the Rick Bates car into the lane now, car 33. So that is outside the compulsory pit stop window. That is well outside the compulsory pit stop window because that opens at 20 minutes into the race and closes 40 minutes. So there's a good 20-minute window there. Here comes the number 65, charging now through.
That's the Matt Holt entry. That's the one that had the lower control arm bush failure yesterday. Now, he said that they were in a pretty bad state on both those VF Commodores, and they're checking under the bonnet of the product entry in the pits at the moment.
And something that's we're going to have to watch out for, Gaz, is the Lillis and the Holt car there, is that they've both got emblazoned Bilstein suspension on the rear quarter, so it can be a trick for young players out there if you get those two cars confused. Rick Bates sitting calmly in pit lane. Of course, the Bates family need very little introduction currently. Harry leading the Australian Rally Championships, second generation rally drivers in the Bates family. Yeah, absolute superstar. His father, out and out superstar. And Uncle Rick has won more than most too.
And Lewis, of course, is running well or has been competing in the Australian Rally Championship. Also, Zach Best, which is Rick's son, who's just started up in Formula Fords.
Just a good shot inside the Evo 10 there. Rick Bates gave us all the data we wanted other than oil temperature and water temperature at the moment. Every alarm on the dash letting us know what was going on there, lap times and gaps and all that sort of thing. Here's the drag race again. Here comes the VF Club Sport down the inside. MRF tyres, shod field, under brakes. Gets the Volkswagen, who's got Usul at the wheel now. Tries to get the Rasm Forest Commodore. That might be a bit of a horsepower run up the back straight. And here comes the number 66 car as well, pushing through there. That's Matt Boylan at the wheel. And he is sharing Dimitri Agapos this weekend. Guys that won a race at Phillip Island early on the year, had themselves stripped of the result, and that went to Zach and Alexandra Best in their older Evo. But certainly if we get any sort of inclement weather later on in the race later on this afternoon for these cars, this one here and that Subaru WRX will certainly be coming play. There's Bob Pearson there, just overlooking. I dare say they've come in. That's the Cam Stewart that's plugged in there. I dare say they've done a couple of laps to prove that they can run that car within the specified range of boost.
Yeah.
And we've got the Cam Stewart plugged in there. So that's the technology difference these days. It's plug in the laptop and get the data download as quick as you possibly can.
Here's a good indication of an older model Club Sport against a newer model, and at the moment the older model's pulling away.
Well, there's no worry about boost with those cars, are there? They're NA, they're V8s, they're the big NA power plants, and have a look at that. A 65 lifting the nose under high acceleration there. And just by the end of the straight, just closing the gap. And out sideways for the Rasm Forest car. And it's Darren Forrest at the wheel at the moment.
He pulled up very short at turn 2 and almost wore the front of the Holt machine in the back of it. I'd seen him was really hard on the anchors, making sure he didn't go into the back of the blue VZ. And you can see a freight train of 4 cars there. You were in the background and making up ground on them too is Jake Cammalleri. Here we've got a replay coming up through Action Air, and there's that big slide out of turn 1 from Darren Forrest. And then you'll see him, he comes up we won't see that, but he came up the 2, he was on the brakes very early and almost wore the VF in the back.
You know, in this part of Melbourne, with Dandenong on one side of Springvale on the other, if you did that, you'd be done for hoon laws if you're outside the fence of the racetrack. You'd be absolutely on a tow truck and on your way home. Good to see. Great car control there from Darren Forrest. And have a look at Jem Usul in this Volkswagen, the Golf R, sitting in there as well, not being able to match the horsepower in a straight line, but gee, that WRX and that Golf R are staying with these two big Commodores. And Michael Hopp on lap 6, going to go 1 lap down. Yeah, the MRF tyres Suzuki running in its own class here this weekend.
Yeah, interesting story with that car yesterday. It actually pulled into the pits just prior to the checkered flag with a loose bumper, and were therefore originally classified as a non-finisher. They reversed that decision sometime later and they took a lap off him, but they declared him a finisher at least.
When we look back in the history books of production cars, there's always late into the night stewards hearings, isn't there? People are pushing the boundaries of production car racing. The rules are very clear, but everybody just likes to pick away at something that they think they might have a better idea or something like that. And look, I applaud them for that. You go to the track, and if you've got a different interpretation of what it says in black and white, then give it a try. And you've got to explain it away to the officials. That's at the end of the day.
The rule books has in it a set of rules. If it's not in there, that means you can't do it. But
and that's actually the first line in the rule book, isn't it? It says, if it doesn't say so here, you can't do it.
But everyone reads the book as saying, well, it isn't in there. It means I can do it.
That's right.
That's where we get the conflict of interest.
That is where it is. Great start to this year at Sydney Motorsport Park. We saw the teams go to the new MRF tyres, and at Mount Panorama we saw some amazing durability with these the tyres that the cars are now running. They've, in fact, MRF have probably done themselves no favours. They've created such a durable, fast tyre that they're not going through them as quick as what they suspected that they might do. So we'll see how it turns out here at Sandown, but certainly at Mount Panorama, Sydney Motorsport Park, and at Queensland Raceway, they've been super durable tyre.
Just ahead of that, we can finally see that Holt has got ahead of Forrest, and Forrest had a bit of a tail slide coming out of turn 4 there, I noticed, in the background of the shot we're looking at here. And this car is a jet in the straight line. This is a VE Club Sport run by James this weekend. Car just in behind them, and they've been basically at it since the start of the race. And they're currently fighting over fifth and sixth positions with Rob Coulthard in the background. We should have updated that. It wasn't Matt Holt at the wheels, Rob Coulthard. So they're sharing that car this weekend.
So a couple of classes, Gaz, this weekend that are really, really strong is the AM1, Australian Muscle Car 1, which is what we're seeing the Commodores or the HSVs racing in. And also C1. There's a massive battle going on this weekend with C1.
Yeah, unfortunately, we must point out that the Osborne Motorsport cars were before the meeting. One of their crew members, Ian Sattler, I should say, is very ill at the moment. So we pass on our thoughts to that team, and we hope to see him back in the future.
Certainly do. That's it's never nice to hear one of our motorsport family that's taken poorly, but we certainly can't wait to see the Osborne Motorsport crew back at the track. Certainly hope that Ian can fight the good fight as we go back to, a big move outside from the Darren Forrest Commodore, and it is slowing. It is slowing. He has been absolutely ragging that Commodore. Why is it slowing? As we see Jem Musil go through in the Volkswagen, and it is definitely slowing going across the top.
It actually had the wood on the Lillis Callahan car at Queensland Raceway, and that's a power circuit.
Yeah, and it had it here too. I spoke to Chris this morning, and he said that Penrite sticking up VY over there. She's a jet in a straight line. Back of shot there is the tribute liveried car that we're going to be watching a little bit throughout this weekend there as well with that BMW. But this is certainly a multi-class battle that we've got going on here, being led by a C1 class car, and of course Jake Cammalleri coming back from the rear of grid start, so he's had a very good push as well. So rear of grid up to 11th, and we still haven't seen Rick Bates rejoin.
Yeah, he's back in 18th at the back of the field. Looks like he's back on track. Or have they just parked it? No, according to that, it's in Sector 2 at the moment, just finishing a lap.
Back out on track, so a number of laps down. They also had to prove to the stewards that
there's
they've
probably
got
a
the
bigger
car
story
right.
to it than that.
There might be something bubbling on in the background. There may be. Jake Cammalleri, flames belching out of the back of the race-fueled filled-up car. Race Fuel's part of the partnership that run the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series as they come to the top of Sandown International Motor Raceway. Turn left, the Highways pub off in the background there, and plunge down into Dandenong Road. Our race leaders at the moment, the M4 of Ian and Grant Sherrin at the moment. Ian Sherrin at the wheel. Lindsay Kearns next in the Mustang. Then it's Chris Lillis in third. Clay Eckhart in the first of the B-class cars there. And then the number 5 of Brad Carr, an A2 car. So Lindsay Kearns leading A2 and Brad Carr second.
We're watching the AM1 battle at the moment. And as you can see now, maybe it's just a missed gear or something we've seen on that previous lap for the number 75, James. But he's run wide. That's not a missed gear. That's just a missed braking marker.
Bit of a lock-up there, a little bit of a plume off the rear as it got unloaded into turn 1 there for the 75 US Customs VE Commodore. And this is a GTS as opposed to a club sport, the VE.
No, the GTS is the supercharged one. Club Sport is a non-supercharged car.
Yeah, that's this one. 75, isn't that the...
No, it's a GTS.
That's what I was saying.
Sorry, no, it's a Club Sport.
Okay.
Yeah, you got me confused then. Here we see a replay of this incident down at turn 1 with the James Club Sport.
Off on turn 1 there, up over the Ripple Strip. No harm, no foul. Lost the spot though. And continuing on as these cars come under the Penrite Bridge. Here's the next thing is going to start weighing in on it. We've got the Penrite Shod Mazda MPS there of the number 51, and that's going to start playing into it. Tom Needham is in there. So we'll just keep an eye on that one. The Tom Needham car is just getting out of the way. So there will be, and it's a signature part of production car racing, and many of the drivers actually enjoy the closing speeds or having to watch the mirrors as we come up to turn 1 now. It just gets out of the way and the car's fighting it out for AM1 and Class C. Get out of the way. Jake Cammalleri will be the next one to arrive.
Yeah, my understanding is the AM1 is Australian Muscle 1, which are non-forced induction. So that would make that James car a club sport rather than a GTS. That's my argument. I'm sticking with it.
And I'm not going to argue with you. You're the Oracle. The greatest of all time, Gary O'Brien
I'll
on board with the Shannons Nationals.
I'll get corrected on it later.
So let's have a quick look. The leaderboard there, the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series, the Morris Finance leaderboard. We go to the M4 running in Class A1 is the Sharon car. Lindsay Kearns in AM2 in the Mustang. Chris Lillis in AM1. Clay Eckart in B. Car in in A2. And then we go to Coulthard running in AM1. James, the next one they're running in AM2. And here's the battle up the inside now. Clay Eckart going through there. Very wide in the I-30N. The I-30N being a great inclusion with the Shannons Nationals this year. Of course, with the MRF Tyres Australian production cars. Now, we've got that Commodore that we saw slowing down a lap ago, Gaz, going into the lane there. So Darren Forrest in out of position 11.
That's the VZ one that we're looking at when into the pits. Now, that window hasn't opened yet.
It hasn't?
Not far. Should be open. Actually, it probably is. So and Sharon's just gone in as well. So they've gone in right on the cusp at the start of the window. Now, that's a smart move, particularly from me and Sharon. And you can see that several others have now
it's going to be a busy pit lane, isn't it? They're all starting to pile in.
Now,
Aaron Cameron in the 95 Melbsat Toyota.
Now, the reason I say that is that if there's safety cars and whatever issues later, then they won't be caught out as bad because they're going to have to spend longer in the pits than what everyone else is. And for that reason is why they lost yesterday's race.
So they get to the front of the field if there is a safety car. So AM1 cars, these cars have to take one wheel off and they can either replace it or put a new one on or just take it off, put it on the ground and do that. A1 is the only class of car that has to take two wheels off. And there we have the car come off. We've got the CAMS officials right alongside there, our fantastic volunteer officials, and we thank them right across the Australian motorsport landscape. And in fact, we've got a number of high-ranking CAMS officials up at the Singapore Grand Prix this weekend. Training continues on up there, and of course the Vietnam Grand Prix is being led very, very closely by the CAMS management and volunteer official brigade. So keep your eyes peeled for the Vietnam Grand Prix next year. Very, very big part of the Confederation of Australian Motorsports international programs.
Now, it's interesting, when Sharon pitted, they had about a 14 or 15 second lead. They've actually come out some 26 seconds slower in the pits than what the Lillis car was. So they've lost in all 5 seconds through having an extra wheel change. So
that's a pretty well-drilled team too,
Indeed.
Isn't it, the Sharons? That's pretty slick to be able to do that, and we see it's in true production car fashion. It's a trolley jack and it's a rattle gun of some description, whether you like your your good horsepower rattle gun run by air, or just one of those little dinky battery ones that tend to give up the ghost when you need them the most?
Not the brace, though.
Not the brace. I've done a race with the wheel brace where at Winton.
While you were driving?
No, at Winton. no, back before then. Is the old Winton 300 when Kent Youlden and Ken Douglas were leading in the Falcons. So that dates it, doesn't it, to about 1992 or something like that.
You're old.
Wheel brace and jerry cans was what we had to use prior to these lovely dry brake systems which we see now. And that's actually an interesting thing between this car that we're looking at on screen, the Coulthard Holt car, and the Lillis Callaghan car, is that the Lillis Callaghan car is in full endurance mode. Got the full Siamese dry brake system, the cell in the back of the car. This car we're looking at now, coming up the back straight under the Shell sign, is standard trim. It doesn't have an endurance setup in it, so the tank is sitting sort of in under where the back seat would be. So their balance in that car is a lot better. They're able to corner weight that car to use its tyres better, whereas the endurance car setup, which is in the Lillis Callaghan car, sits in the boot in a fuel cell.
Well, that's why you see more of these cars out for these 1 hour races, because fuel's not an issue and you don't have to have the dry brake fuel system. And that's why I think, well, one of our reasons why entry levels are so good this weekend. And admittedly, we've had some dramas, but
it is interesting in that respect because the V8s are still running a Brimmer tank. They're putting as much as they can actually get in, as are the turbo cars, the BMWs, and that they're still putting in as much as they can. Pit stop's done there for Class C1 car, the Hyundai i30N.
You're talking about the Gotham car in the background, the 43. Very reminiscent of BMW Group 2, Group 5 colours back in the 70s.
The absolute big bangers, weren't they?
Yeah, the hand-stuck style of car. There's always that classic picture from Spa where all four wheels are off the ground, where it's come off somewhere after Eau Rouge, I think, and it's down that straight, and there's a thing, the car, you can walk under it just about, it's that high off the ground.
The 46 M3 is what we're looking at, just out behind that HSV. This is our cleansed race leader. They've done the pit stop and done it nicely. Here's Jake Cammalleri. Gaz, this is a car that you and I, back in, about 2011, 2012, we dubbed it the Giant Killer, didn't we? When it got to the end of the race, it had killed giants.
Yeah. Was it this one or the model before it? Because the model before it was probably more successful than this one.
Yep.
We remember seeing it at Simmons Plains in the wet beat the four-wheel drive cars, and I thought that was phenomenal.
Certainly was.
And I had put a lot of that down to the driver as well.
Have a look at this. We've got Ian Sharon at the wheel here. He is running a fair whack of ripple strip coming over the hill. Now, look, the track has been slightly realigned. Certainly a lot of work has gone up there, so it is encouraging that sort of behaviour. But I didn't expect to see the production cars running the ripple strip down the middle of the car, so having wheels straddling either side of it there. So I guess there's going to be people in supercar world watching this live stream this weekend, so they can have a good look at what is going on up there, and they'll be going, right, well, we can do that. We can, like at Barbagallo, when they come onto the straight at Barbagallo, they go round the back of the ripple strip.
Or over it and just have sparks flying everywhere. Here's this particular car coming in the pits, Adam Gosling.
Great looking car. They've really done a terrific job down at MH Auto Care and Ravenol to get this car looking so good.
It's not a perfect replica of it, but it represents what that colour scheme was.
What do we call it? A modern iteration?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, now, we've got brighter colours and better technology with our decals
these days. So you can just wrap it. The interesting thing is with Ian Sharon going back ahead of Chris Lillis, and by the way, Kobe Cowan's got ahead of Lillis as well. Lillis actually leads the championship outright, and Sharon is in second spot. So if the way it's going at the moment, Lillis finished fourth yesterday, and Sharon was in second position, or elevated to second position, and Lillis to third. So that now makes it a lot tighter in the championship stakes, given we've had a race under the sea. So he continues to head home the HSV, he will take over the outright lead of the championship.
Let's have a look after yesterday's race how the top three in each of our classes pans out. A1 has got Ian Sharon out in front on 374 points to his brother Grant, 336. Beric Linton and Tim Lay, 280 and 280. Now, Tim Lay raced back here in the GTs back in the classic 2007 and acquitted himself very, very well. We always know Tim to acquit himself very well when he gets behind the wheel. But looking back a little bit historically, Tim Lay and Alan Simonson won here in a Ferrari 430 back in 2007. So I bet you Tim would have loved
500, was it?
No. It was a GT Classic when the modern era of GT was resurgent. It was a race that was run here at Sandown to, I guess, drag some interest back in the sport, won by Simonson and Lay, Ian Palmer and Paul Stokel in the very early 520 Gallardo. So back in 2007. So Tim Lay currently sitting equal third in this championship, but unfortunately we're not seeing the guys from the Gold Coast running here this weekend. Colby Cowan is leading the way with Lindsay Kearns in A1 over Brad Carr and Ash Jarvis. Ash Jarvis not racing with us here this weekend. Was to be racing with Brad Carr, but being 1 hour races, he's going to do them himself, and why not? AM1, Chris Lillis over Nathan Callahan with Michael James in P3. Australian Muscle 2 is Darren Forrest and Paul Razum out in front there. In B1, Dimitri Agathos and Matt Hall share 450 points. Clay Eckhart second and David Ayres third there. C1, now this is the interesting one. Frank Mammarello with Caden Olsen on 425. Jem Usul and Ian Salteri in the Volkswagen. Alfie Senesi in the Hyundai i30 as well. Kyle Girton leading C2 with Aaron Cameron, and D, Tom Needham in that little Mazda, which we just saw on screen just before, out of the results from yesterday. So lots going on there across the classes. Of course, the MRF tyres pole position getters. Outright was the BMW M4. In A2, it was Bob Pearson and Rick Bates. Rick at the wheel there in the Product Mitsubishi Evo. AM1 was Chris Ellis and Nathan Callahan in the HSV VF Club Sport. AM2, the Razum car, the Darren Razum car, which we have seen back out on track. Darren Forrest, Paul Razum car back out on track. In Class B1, it was Adam Gosling. In Class C1, it was Jem Usul. C2 was Aaron Cameron. He's got a big weekend of racing here this weekend, but Kyle Girton at the wheel there. Tom Needham in D, and in E, the MRF tyres pole position award went to Michael Hull.
Ian Sharon's just done a 1:19.6. That's the fastest lap of the weekend for that BMW in race trim anyway, and currently second on road. Brad Card leads the way. Now, he was the last to pit yesterday and similarly so today. So they're sticking with that strategy that they used yesterday. Unfortunately, they got caught out on a restart for passing before the control line or something along those lines. So it cost them 10 seconds, but it didn't cost them a position. Fortunately, they were more than 10 seconds up the road. Bates would be now in for the CPS, I'd imagine. Hop in as well. Forrest back for their second stop, so they've got dramas with the VZ in the pits, and I did see it come down into the overturn 6 into 7, and it was off the road, so whether there was a drama with it. And
this is like the position in the race here.
Usel's having some dramas getting around Gosling at the moment.
So they're coming onto the straight now, the last grid positions there as they come around past the pit entry road. The Gosling Usul, so Gosling in B1, Jem Usul in the Golf R there as our race leader, I would suggest, coming through, or Clean's race leader, because Brad Carr is showing out in front at the moment in A2, but hasn't been in for his pit stop. The M4 goes through on the Golf R down at turn 1, and there's Brad Carr just up the road a little bit as well, just out of shot.
4.3 seconds to be precise.
Thank you very much, Gary O'Brien, the accurate one. Past the Ladbrokes Park signs there.
Charlie Senesi's the only other car that hasn't pitted as yet, the driver that hasn't pitted his car as yet. He's currently in number 15, running in 12th spot outright.
Just only a couple of years ago, this M4 had lots of issues. They were popping tyres, trying to get their suspension right on the previous control tyre. It's won a title since, and now have a look at it. It's won a 6 hour at Bathurst. It didn't win this year because that went to Beric Linton and Tim Lay in the M3. But this M4 is a very poised race car now, isn't it?
51 car, the 95 I should say there, Kyle Girton, doing it on his own this weekend. Aaron Cameron, obviously otherwise employed in the TCR Australia series we're coming out later in the day.
Certainly TCR a big part of what the Shannons Nationals are doing. Of course, a very big part of this weekend is the partnering of the Shannons Nationals with the Very Special Kids program. Confederation of Australian Motorsport and Very Special Kids are delighted to confirm that there's a partnership here this weekend. Important to note that 10% of all the gate takings this weekend are going to the Very Special Kids. We'd love you to get on our website, www.thenationals.com.au. The button there for the Very Special Kids. Please be generous with your donation there. Of course, like I said, 10% of all gate takings this weekend will be going to the Very Special Kids. It's an undeniable charitable organisation when you see some kids that are ill and do need some very special attention. Jump on there, jump on our website, join all of us, and let's see if we can raise a big fistful of money to hand over to the Very Special Kids.
Yeah, while you were talking there too, the change of lead, Brad Carr lost out to Ian Sherrin. So Ian Sherrin leads the race, Brad Carr in second, and this is the third place car, Colby Cowan in the Ford Mustang. What a revelation this car has been to the series. And
tell you what, it's a beautiful build too. The build of that Mustang is second to none. It really is. In fact, I've been over many years watched a lot of production car racing, and these modern production cars, they are going to every end to build nice cars. The car that's currently in sixth place, the Lillis Callahan car, is they nickname it Kate, as in Kate Moss. It's lightweight, so it got called Kate Moss. Tiniest little sticker on it that it says just above the driver's door.
The
race car.
The car was actually built by Matt Holt, who's running in the sister car, you call it.
It's the first time both cars have actually raced against each other here this weekend.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see. So that really the only difference is that endurance fuel tank between them, and they both had lower control arm issues.
Yeah, but the Lillis Callahan car's slightly different in the fact that they learned a few things out of the first car and improved them in the second.
And I would suggest they've had a all this season running on the MRF as well, the control tyre for the Australian Production Car Series, and they've learned a fair bit with that. And in fact, the big cars, whenever there's a control tyre, we always look to the big cars to see how they're going to be, don't they? And the guys are really happy with it. They've stood up. They haven't gone and done any damage because they've lost a tyre along the way.
Well,
there has been some.
They've had to learn. They've learned that they've had to. The suspension's got to be totally different. Once they overcome that issue, we're setting their cars up.
And at Bathurst and at Sydney Motorsport Park, the first two times this year, MRF brought a full team of engineers to make sure everyone was doing that. And if there was failures, they were immediately helped in trying to point the wheels in the right direction. When I say point the wheels in the right direction, get the cast of the camber, the starting pressures was something they also had to be very much re-educated on with these tyres, because we've gone away from an R spec to an FIA 2 type tyre, so it's a fully treaded type tyre, but it is not the road-based R spec that we're used to seeing. So they are an FIA spec tyre, exactly the same as what's used around the world in this sort of racing.
This battle continues between Gosling and Usul, BMW and Volkswagen respectively, and that's been going on for quite a while now. And actually, if anything, Gosling's starting to pull a little bit clear.
Yeah, but only just. It's very close, isn't it, these two? I reckon
we've got safety. We've got yellow flag down here, so we may have an issue. And
no one immediately. Oh, the M4 has stopped underneath the Penrite Bridge. Control-Alt-Delete for the kids at home, and away we go. Almost literally, isn't it, Gaz?
Yep.
It is pull over, turn it off, and turn it all back on again. And away we go. They have lost the lead to Lindsay Kearns, has gone through. So Ian Sherrin at the wheel. He continues on. He'll have been able to feel pretty quick, smart cars all right. And we do see this from time to time. We do see the electronics on the modern car go into fuzzy mode. And we see them pull over. And if we see the driver rummaging around for the on-off switch, we know that that's what it is.
So he's lost out by about 17.4 seconds to Cowan, who now leads the way. So that's a dramatic turnaround.
2 minutes left until the compulsory pit stop window closes.
Everyone's done their stop, so that's not an issue anymore. But importantly, just under 22 minutes of this race to go.
So we're trucking on very nicely indeed. The number 43 coming across the top of the famous rise here at Sandown. The place of many, many incidents, as is this corner. The left-hander at Dandenong Road. Just over the driver's right shoulder is the 4 lanes city-bound of the Princess Highway. And they turn left and head back towards Springvale. Onto the straight now, past the tyre company sign, and work the straight here at Sandown.
And this is an inter-class battle that continues for 8th and 9th outright. Adam Golding and Jem Usel.
Here comes the M4, jagging right over the extreme left on the straight. Trying now to make up that deficit of 18.6 seconds. So we've got 20 minutes left in this race. The car is about a second a lap faster, so in about 18 laps' time.
It should be
18
line ball.
Yeah,
almost.
It's going to be very close.
It's very
here.
similar to yesterday's result.
Ian Shannons set the fastest lap of the race on lap number 19. So we have seen that these cars on the new control tyre are good for fastest laps, almost the entire distance of the life of the tyre. Whereas some of the other Aspect tyres that we've seen racing, production car racing, they've got to be buffed and they've got to be given all this special treatment to get them to go well. These things, they wipe the mould, the production mould wax off them on the outlap and get into it.
These two guys out in the front of our picture will be saying, well, was this BMW? Didn't it come past us a couple of laps ago?
Past it parked on the driver's right underneath the Penrite Bridge for a lap or two ago. It's going to blow past the Volkswagen Golf R and the number 43 BMW of Adam Gosling.
I'm just wondering whether you'll button off the pace a bit too, because 21.19 on that lap and 20.87 for our race leader, so he's actually lost more time. So out to 18.9 seconds, the gap between first and second, and we've got 19 and a half minutes of this race remaining.
Probably a bit of traffic might have played in on that with Ian Shannons as well. Lindsay Kearns has got himself a fair bit of key track to continue setting those lap times. In fact, Kearns is now setting fastest sectors.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if when Ian did that very quick lap, it was just before that car shut down. So when it's really pushed, does it have a computer issue and cause the car to shut down?
Might get to a temperature point in the cooling system and just goes into protection mode, which I guess is nice because back in the day you just drive on through, looking at trying to catch the temperature gauge out of the corner of your eye.
Well, you always went on a wing and a prayer if the gauge went up.
That's right. Yeah, faulty gauge.
Yeah. Fuel tank gauge. No, that's got to be faulty. There's got to be still something in it.
Had a conversation with my dad about an oil pressure gauge that he thought was faulty in the engine blew. The Volkswagen goes through, so relinquishes the spot there in the BMW. The number 43 of Adam Gosling allows Jem Usel to go through, driving very, very nicely. Jem up to 9th place at the moment and leading Class C1. Jake Cammalleri currently second, started off the back of the grid. It's Cade Olsen in the number 14 of the I-30Ns, sitting back there in 14th, and Charlie Senesi in 15th. James Goldsborough not taking the start of this race today, but this car leading Class C1.
Here we have the battle amongst the Club Sports AM1 cars again. James in front of Lillis at the moment. Lillis looking to get past, and this will be a good indication to see whether that car is on track or not at this stage. We did see it have a glitch earlier in the race.
We did.
Now in the straight line, this will be interesting because we did see up at Queensland Raceway that car in front of Lillis was a jet in the straight line.
And continues to do so. Absolutely drives away. Gets past the Aaron Cameron Racing 86 there. And comes down. That new massive bit of runoff up there. Let's hope that that solves issues that we're seeing when the sheep stations are at stake and people go long and deep into that left-hander.
So that has changed the... Oh, no, actually, that puts the Willis car a lap ahead. The number 65 is actually a lap ahead of the 75. And obviously the next target will be the teammate in Rob Coulthard, who's currently third. So in between them, at this point of time, there's no... it says it's Clay Eckhart, but he's just behind him on the road. So there's quite a gap there between third and fourth places. Or am I looking at this wrongly?
So just looking at the 65
we're looking at the Rob
car,
Coulthard.
Coulthard car.
Lillis is the next one back.
So Lillis is back behind this battle that we're not seeing on the live stream feed at the moment, but this is the battle now that we're looking for Brad Carr and Matty Boylan with the BMW and the WRX there as well.
Another thing worth pointing out too, the B1 battle, which is the Subaru we see here, and the BMW, the number 19. At the moment, they're running in 7th and 4th, respectively. So we'll keep an eye on that one because that's been a pretty close tussle throughout the whole championship.
No doubt the overemployment. WRX is being driven the wheels off it by Matty Boylan at the moment. Out over the back of the ripple strips, a little bit of rally style there. Certainly, we've had Molly Taylor at all of our rounds with TCR this year, and just channeling the spirit of the rally driver there in the WRX, going out over the back of the ripple strip, rejoining on the dirt, and not losing any real ground at all.
Someone celebrating a football win last night by the look of it.
Yeah, either that or a Bucks Day or something like that. We saw them at Winton in their onesies. Just watching some of the marbles down there at turn 1, the bits of rubber that come off the tyres starting to mount up there. We've got 14 and a half minutes left in this second race for the weekend for the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series.
So probably noting in the outright context the difference between the cars. We're looking at our race leader, Kobe Cowan, who is 12.2 seconds up the road from Ian Sharon in second spot. Rob Coulthard's in third, and then Clay Eckhart will be fourth, Chris Willis in fifth, Brad Carr sixth, and Matt Boylan in seventh. The remainder of the field, which is led by Chem Usul, are now a lap down, with Gosling, Cammalleri, James, Olsen, Forrest, Girton and Sinisi following through, with Needham the last runners.
As we watch our race leader cresting the hill at Sandown, we'll go down to pit lane with Emma Nota Francesco.
Yeah, because we found something a little bit interesting. This is Timmy Golding, not in his original race suit. This looks pretty comfy, mate.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cosy in here. I don't know if it's fireproof, but it's definitely comfy.
Well, it'd be good for these cold conditions, but this isn't very fair because I know for a fact that you don't barrack for Richmond, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a team thing here. Barry's obviously a massive supporter of them, so yeah, well done to them last night. Richmond Football Club did an awesome job, so I think we gave them a bit of good luck with their colours on.
Shout out to Barry Rogers. I'm sorry, but I barrack for Collingwood, so it's game on tonight. Hey, how's it going in these cars? They are an absolute beast. We love hearing them and seeing them out on track.
Yeah, that's right. They're extremely fast and a lot of fun out there. So just building up to it, I think everyone's sort of taking it a bit easy. It's a bit of a rough circuit here, but the places they've resurfaced made it a bit nicer. So everyone's getting quicker and quicker. I'm sure today's going to be a lot of fun.
And just a bit of an extra challenge for you. Some very wet conditions expected today as well.
Yeah, that's right. I'll throw a bit of a spanner in the works, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it as much as probably all the others are as well.
Thanks, Jimmy. Stay warm as you are. Nice and cosy. Good luck this afternoon.
Cheers. Thanks.
So S5000's on track at 10:05 this morning for a 20-minute practice session. If yesterday afternoon's 20-minute practice session is anything to go by, Gary O'Brien, the hairs stand up on the back of your head. You get the goosebumps, and it's magnificent.
I think every fan that was around back in the mid to late 70s that came out and watched Formula 5000 were out here yesterday reliving their youth.
Certainly was for me. It warms the cockles of everything. It certainly is a great feeling just watching those big, and they're big too. I really seen the prototype, but when you put them all out there on track, you go, wow, they're like an IndyCar size.
Yeah.
They're a big race car. Looking forward to the
the
success of
rolling
S5000. Yes.
Oh, when we got 13 of the beasts rumbling past it at the one time.
It's going to be awesome as we get back to the MRF Tyres Australian production cars. Let's have a look as we have a challenge here for spot on the straight. The BMW just having the legs, as you'd expect in a straight line, not carrying the full four-wheel drive drivetrain. Bit of damage underneath the front of the CMA car, the number 8 of Brad Carr, and Matt Holt just driving Matt Boylan just driving the wheels off the full gas racing car. And here comes the M4 fighting back. There we go, a little bit more rally stuff there down the inside. The Subaru, an overemployment car, gets through on the CMA car of Brad Carr, and the M4 just bobbling in the background there going, well, I might just get out of this. This looks like it's getting lively. The M4 pops out from behind the like-minded BMW and streams on through. I'd suggest Brad Carr may have a bit of an issue there. He's just given that up pretty easily.
I don't think so. That was for position 6 on the road, so got a replay coming up, and you could see threw it into turn 1, didn't he? And got out over the ripper strip. Great thing about the Subaru four-wheel drive, if you do go off-road, you're going to be back on quicker than the two-wheel drive car.
It certainly is, yeah. You don't end up doing circle work, do you? Back down at turn 2, the number 19. This car, again, inside the top 5. It's a B-class car. The Shannons Rentals 135i has won numerous Class B championships. Since its inception, we dubbed it the Bull Terrier early on in its day.
Yeah, we liked the look of it when it first came out.
Certainly a very muscular stance to this car, and it looked very purposeful and has remained that way for about 5 or 6 seasons now. Jake Cammalleri, again, very purposeful race driver, has found a very happy home in the GT Championship in his Mark car over the last few years, and got to say it's great to see Jake back. He's done some international racing, and great to see him back in the MRF Tyres Australia production.
Well,
car
as a
series.
guy that's driven it a fair bit, Michael Sharon, that's Ian and Grant's dad there, orchestrating proceedings. I dare say he's probably got his iPad looking at the timing, and there's a little there's a little checklist to keep an eye on. Stop on marks, loose belt handbrake, etc., etc., etc.
So that'll be for pit stop change, I would suggest, if you've got to loosen your belts off. Otherwise, you've got them nice and tight.
Well, most people, if you've got 2 drivers, you can have a driver change at the CPS, or you can elect to do individual driver races. Doesn't matter either way, your driver still scores points whether he's in the car or not.
I'd say in 1 hour races, if you've got teammates, it's 2 hours, two 1 hour races each. Well, it makes sense.
I think Bob Pearson proved it a couple of years ago at Sydney Motorsport Park that driver change costs you pit time. And you don't want that.
And not only did he leave the co-drivers at home that weekend, he dominated all 4 races, Bob did. Age shall not weary him. He's certainly a dogged competitor, that is for sure.
Except he doesn't, he falls out of trees all right, he just doesn't land real well.
Yes, yeah, I like his crewmate's story that he was out in the Ducati and had an incident.
Yeah, we know that.
But Bob told the truth. No, I was guarded. So let's have a look at where Rick is no longer taking any further part in this race. So they've obviously had further concern with the boost on that car. Here's the crew running the Lillis Callahan car, Jack Motorsport. The team that look after Kate, the race car.
And currently running in 5th position, so they've got to get past Eckhart, and I think he's only 3.3 seconds adrift of that car, and Rob Coulthard's only a further 1.3 seconds up the road, so still a possibility that they may get to the pointy end of a top 3 position. Bit more activity going on in pit lane. There's Andre Heimgartner preparing to jump in a Holden Astra for the TCR Australia session coming up shortly.
So coming up the back straight, looking strong. Commodore comes in, does it nicely, gets through on a couple of lower class BMWs now, and it's really good to see that the all little coming together there, the 19 and the 43. out of 4th position and Gosling out of 9th. The 19 getting through there, the Class B car, just getting through a little kiss with 2 BMWs there as they come out of Dandenong Road corner. I was just about to say everyone's giving each other plenty of racing room. No marks on the front of the Shannon car, but certainly pushed his way through. I was just about to say the class car's letting them through. Down the inside there, Clay Aircart, just a little nudge. And that can be production car racing from time to time as the 43 accelerates out of the corner. As we go to the pit lane, a big welcome to Jack Perkins.
Yeah, down here in the Cammalleri Racing Garage with Andre Heimgartner. We're counting down to TCR qualifying, which is just around the corner. Andre, you're now in the Holden Astra. You've got a race under your belt. Qualified on the front row in that at Winton. Can you improve on Winton?
Yeah, definitely. We've changed the car a lot coming into this round, just with springs and all sorts of stuff. So it was a lot better yesterday, and I think it'll be a lot friendlier in the race. That's sort of where we lacked last time. It was good over a lap, but it chewed the tyres apart like you wouldn't believe. So, yeah, hopefully today we can get that sorted, but it looks like a bit of rain coming, so we never know.
I see the team's cut back to 2 cars. We've got rid of the Subarus for these races, so focus on these 2 cars. You've got Bryce in the other car, and I see you've got your supercar engineer, Dylan Talabani, here, so you'll be able to make a lot more progress.
Yeah, it's good having Bryce here, another good young bloke, and I got my daddy here working on this car, and obviously Dylan on this, so we've worked out a few things already, so hopefully by the end of the weekend we can have these things singing a bit better.
All the best, mate.
Cheers, thank you.
I'm just watching on with a very nervous Mike Sherrin. Hey, after some ECU issues early in the race, he's done a great job, but can he get him?
I believe so. We're down to 5 seconds behind. We've still got 5.5 minutes to go. We're bringing him back about a second a lap, so hopefully we'll be able to catch him. Then a matter of being able to pass him for the checkered flag. Fingers crossed.
Big job for him this weekend as well, of course, flying solo this time round.
Oh, yeah, big job, big job. I think he might be missing his little brother a little bit, but anyway, he's doing a great job out there now. Hope we can bring it home.
I'll let you get back to it. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks very much.
So, Gaz, was that Michael Sherrin with his tongue firmly planted in his teeth?
I'd say so, very much so. It's probably easier with one driver than 2. And we're coming into the same scenario we had yesterday afternoon, where we've got Ian Sherrin chasing down a Ford Mustang.
I thought you were going to say, does Dad love Ian or Grant Moore? Which way does it work?
No, you've got to be very diplomatic when you get to
definitely,
that.
definitely do. Definitely do.
And, we've had an incident.
Wow, that's
Rob
the number
Coulthard.
19 again, getting into the side of Coulthard.
And I think he's caught there. I don't know if he...
He's
going to get out of it.
Gets out. The MRF tyres now will be fully embedded with stones because they'll be nice and hot after 55 minutes and 41 seconds of racing.
Now we've got Clay Eckhardt up to 3rd, Chris Lillis in the background's 4th. So we've got a great battle going on for 3rd and 4th as well. So watch this again. Eckhardt goes down the inside and just tags the back of the HSV. And around she goes.
Eckhardt was very clear that he was looking down there. He looked down the inside very early and, wow, starting to really rag that number 64 for the result there, because this is actually 4th place. We've got this is 3rd and 4th on the road.
You hit my teammate.
Yeah, exactly. I'm after you. But that number 19, she's a nimble piece of kit and very, very rapid in a straight line. Let's see if Holden's finest, the HSV Revolution Roofing Bill Stein car, can catch it. Does a little bit in the up the back straight. Lots of torque on board there as we've got the TCR guys getting themselves set in pit lane.
So this is going to go all the way down the wire and very good under brakes. That's where the HSV is very, very strong with its braking package. And it just gobbles up all that distance between the pair of them. As they head down here, we've got 3 minutes of this race to go. There's 3.8 seconds between 1st and 2nd. There's less than a second between 3rd and 4th. It's really come down to the wire. And it's so often the case, Daz, in these longer production car races that we get this situation. It builds up to a climax and it all starts to happen in the last few moments of the race.
Talk about building up to a climax. I mentioned that 5,000s might be on at 10 o'clock. I made a big mistake. That was 11:15, not 10:15.
You were building up a bit early.
I was getting myself well and truly ahead of myself there with the 5,000. So 11:15, if you've made your way to the track early this morning, I know many have. I know many have. Stuart Moore and Tim Price are out here this morning. They've made this way out very early to have a look at the 5,000s.
Now we've got Chris Lillis stalking Clay Eckhart for third spot, and he's closer this time, although they've got to weed their way through traffic all the way up the back straight.
The Razum Commodore again. Darren Forrest, Paul Razum car. Darren Forrest at the wheel, slow up the back straight again. So their dream run in the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series, which I guess made a hiccup, but had a rollover at QR. They've kept it on its feet this weekend. Very gentle rollover, but it was a rollover indeed. This weekend has now come across, I would say, some mechanical concerns when it's not outrunning the Class E car of Michael Holt. Here's a spin.
That's the leader.
That is our race leader at Dandenong Road. So we're seeing plenty of action, as we always do at Sandown at Dandenong Road. The lead is very handy indeed over the number 18 car of Ian Sherrin.
He's trying to fire it up while it's in gear. By look at it, he was rocking backward and forward.
So it doesn't look to be bogged. It's got a bit of an exhaust fire there. That's fine. Here comes the contenders. It's not anyone in the place that's got through on them
he's got
yet.
it out,
as Ian Sherrin goes through to the lead.
So does that move Eckhart and Lillis up? Oh,
that's a big one, gone off on driver's left before making his way down to Dandenong Road, slid backwards over the ripple strip into the sand pit there, which we've seen numerous cars go through. You can already see tracks there just on the edge of it. And I would suggest, Gaz, the car might be fine, but the driver might be having a bit of a deep breath. Probably put the red driving suit away.
And Sherrin now leads the way. And we've still officially got Callahan in second spot. And we've got 22 seconds of this race remaining. So we might get a checkered flag this lap round, actually.
There's our race leader.
So that would mean he's thrown it away on the last lap.
Yep. And what a shame. The Mustang was doing so very well. It's only a matter of time before the Stang does get up for a race win. Certainly doing very well in its class.
Now, would Sherrin try and slow up a bit so the checkered flag is out and we've gone
When you've got
past.
a 36-second lead, yeah, why not? Crawl it across the line.
Now I think he should get the checkered flag this time because we've gone past the hour and he appears to have buttoned off just enough to assume that he's going to get the checkered flag, and it is out. So Ian Sherrin takes out race 2 of round 4 here at Sandown Raceway this morning in dramatic circumstances, one must say, with Cowboy Cohen having that off on the penultimate lap. Brad Carr brings his car around, and then of course we've got the Paul Razum HSV, the next one through. Here comes our second place Ford Mustang through the last sequence of corners and out onto the straight.
Well, those that have come to see the Mustang win a race, it's only going to be a matter of time. We've still got 2 more races for the MRF Tyres Australian production cars this weekend, so there is still plenty of time to see a Mustang. But at the moment, it is the M4 that we've seen win before, has taken race 2 for the weekend. And here comes the number 19. This is for position on the track. This is 3rd and 4th. And the nimble BMW out of Sherrin Rentals, number 19, with Clay Eckhart at the wheel. And I think that might be Clay's best outright result since he's taken over that car. One-time mechanic in the Sherrin Rentals team, still is, but now gets to put the driving suit, the gloves, the helmet, and gets to do some racing. This is a good run to the line as well. Adam Gosling will bring this whole gaggle of cars home. Cammalleri in behind him there. And then, of course, will be Olsen out of order there in the C1 car. Here's our race winner, number 18, Ian Sherrin at the wheel. Guy works very, very hard at the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series. He's the category manager. And that was, I guess, Gaz, at the end, lucky that the Mustang beached it.
Yeah, there we see it. Official result, 37.6 seconds when there was a 5-second advantage the other way to the second place car. Clay Eckhart in 3rd, Chris Willis in 4th, Robert Coulthard in the 2nd of the HSVs in 5th position, Matt Boylan in 6th, Brad Carr 7th, Chem Usul in 8th, Adam Gosling in 9th, and Jake Cammalleri from all their dramas of yesterday came home in 10th spot.
Michael James threw in the MRJ US Customs HSV VE GTS. It says on the screen 2 laps down. Caden Olsen, the Next Gen Racing Hyundai i30N. Cole Girton, Darren Forrest eventually brought the VZ home in 14th. Charlie Sinesi home in the i30N there. Tom Needham, Michael Hopp, and unfortunately Rick Bates did not get to the line on the lead lap this time today. 3 laps down there in the Mitsubishi Evo 10. 5 o'clock this afternoon, the MRF Tyres Australian Production Car Series will be on track. TCR coming up next.